Oh boy, and just like that, we're back. We got a great card tonight. Lots of great action going on. You've got Smith, you've got Rakic. I know I see over in the comments, Magomed, Ankalaev, and Yeon Cutelaba, the rematch. It's up. But hey, look, I'm glad. I'm looking forward to coming back. We missed last week. Last week was a crazy week. We only had 9 fights on the card, but we have a great card coming up tonight, and I've got a great little message for you out there, the viewer. We partnered up with Ringside Beers, so you got to check them out. It's ringsidebeerstore.com. Use the promo code FNP, and for our listeners only, you're going to save 25% off your order today. Make sure you check them out. I've got 2 of the great tap handles there. Awesome merch that they've got. They've got shirts. They've got some crazy stuff over there, but it's all really high quality. And yeah, I'm really glad that they could join us along for the ride. So help out the show. Check them out, ringsidebeerstore.com. And without further ado, let's keep getting into it. Fight Night Picks is brought to you by Vertiball. Head on over to their website. It's vertiball.com. And listen, it's an awesome product. It's a local company out of New Brunswick, Canada. So make sure you support those guys locally as well as Fight Night Picks. But they're the only mountable portable muscle massager. They can stick onto any smooth surface. They've got an industrial strength suction cup. Can support over 100 pounds of pressure. You can get really into those deep knots. I have one here at home. I use it for my back and my shoulders from holding up that Fight Night Picks Pick'em trophy. But listen, make sure you check them out. It's a great product. Like I said, they're recommended by physiotherapists, masseuses, and chiropractors across Canada, the US, UK, and Australia. And they're used by countless professional athletes like Minka Fitzpatrick on screen there, as well as Clellan Farrell of the Raiders. So if you head into the cart, make sure you check them out. So I've got a Vertiball massager in my cart right there. Use the promo code FNP. You're going to save 10% off your order. You're supporting this company here that I'm very passionate about in New Brunswick, Canada, and you're helping out us as well. So make sure you check them out, vertiball.com, promo code FNP, 10% off your order. And without further ado, let's get into it.
It's time
for 15 minutes of non-stop MMA, tackling the biggest news in the sport. Head into the chat and let us know how you feel. Live from Fredericton, New Brunswick, Canada, here's your host, Craig Allen.
So glad to be back. We've got a great week of MMA. Listen, KSW 54 going on right now, but you, the viewer, you're excited for this fight night with Anthony Smith and Aleksandar Rakic, a 3-round main event to look forward to. I can already see a lot of people popping off in the chat. Really appreciate that. You want to have your message heard and seen and actually get a chance to see it because this stuff's really going to start to roll. Make sure you hit up the super chat. Again, helping out the show, helping out old Craig Allen. So you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Craig Allen FNP. You can find us at Fight Night Picks. Again, the chat's kind of going nuts. And in a lot of these and the pictures that you have up there on screen, I've got them up on my phone. Nige is hitting us up with a $5 super chat. Really appreciate you saying, keep up the great work, guys. Just bleed. And I'm never going to do that again. But for these picks, I'm going off of our picks on the Instagram. So you're going to see them up there. If you head on over to at Fight Night Picks, you can go into our Instagram story and vote for every single one of the fights. Everybody's excited about that. Devesh saying, please tell me, is the rematch canceled? If you're talking about the rematch between Yeon Cutelaba and Magomed Ankalaev, it is canceled. Yeon Cutelaba tested positive for COVID, so that fight is off. FM's fired up. You lost all your money last week, but you're laughing about it. You're having fun. Quincy Brown saying Robbie by first round RKO. And N Cloud and a lot of people going with Bill Algeo. There's a little bit of a back and forth there. Also saying that Pitolo is trash. Well, he's in the UFC, so he can't be that trash. But yeah, I mean, overall, looking at this card, it's a really tough one to try and get a read on. Honest to goodness, it is. I mean, we spent a lot of time getting ready for this fight card. Listen, we did 2 picks for Alex Caceres, the one fight that he had against Giga Chikadze. Then we got really excited about the fight that he was going to have with Kevin Kroom. And then, of course, the Austin Springer fight. And Springer coming in overweight, big time. Yikes. Devesh, really appreciate you. Riley Hirschfeld saying Neil Magny. EK is saying Algeo, good pick. Who he fight? He's fighting really tough out in Ricardo Lamas, the bully. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Richard, Castro going with Rakic, Martin, Kasanganay, Caceres, Brady, and Algeo. I would agree with you for just about all of those. So keep filling up that chat. We're going to whip down through this entire card, less Ankalaev and Cutelaba. I wish it was on there. El Nino saying, who do you think are good for express bets? Again, there's not a lot of picks that I really not necessarily confidence-wise that I like, but there's some on here that just I wouldn't touch at all. Matt with the $4.99 super chat, I appreciate you. I'm assuming you're not Matt Allen, but if you're Matt Allen, you're just giving money back to yourself. And isn't that a little bit of insider trading? I don't know. Quincy Brown saying Sean Brady, Aguilera to go the distance. If Brady's going to win, I mean, he's got a lot of different things to do in that one. So we'll go down through this. We'll start at the bottom. We'll go all the way up to the top. If people join in halfway through, I'm sure they're going to ask me for some of the old picks. I'll go back down through them, but that chat is going to fill up quick. So let's go all the way down. They move the order of some of these fights on the card, but it's a really good one. And our opening fight here, we have Hannah Cyphers taking on Mallory Martin. Martin, her second fight in the UFC. She lost to Verna Jandiholba in her debut, but gave a good account of herself, was 6-2 up into that point. She has really good wrestling, really good top control. Hannah Cyphers, you know the boxing out of some of those fights that she has won. She started off quite well in the UFC, then she faced some buzzsaws. She hasn't won in a little bit. She's lost 3 in a row. Now, Hannah Cyphers, to me, it's kind of weird that she's such a big underdog, and actually the most money that came in on a single fighter on this card came in on Mallory Martin at a 77% clip. So it's a little bit of a surprise there that you have such a change in momentum, especially at women's strawweight for this one. So it's incredibly surprising there. I see Dried Spicy Shredded Squid saying, damn, Matt slowly closing in behind you, 10 picks away. I think he's more than 10 picks away from me. He's quite a bit more. But I pick more fights than he has because I get the benefit of question mark kicks where everything gets locked in. So Hannah Cyphers, Mallory Martin, it's one of those ones where we both sided with Mallory Martin. I can see a path to victory for Hannah Cyphers. This is one of those fights where like Damon Blackburn's saying, Cyphers is a live dog. You're not wrong there. I'm dead serious. Because Hannah Cyphers, she's really tricky out. Again, if she can close distance, if she can get the fight to the mat, but I see Martin having, more success on the ground than I do Cyphers. I see her taking it there quite early. She's an AKA product at this point. So for a lot of different reasons and all the reasons that we mentioned in that, prediction video, I'm going to stick with Mallory Martin, but again, and we had talked about it in that video, the fact that there is an opportunity for Hannah Cyphers to certainly get a win here. I would expect this one to go the distance. Quincy Brown saying she looks shaky at weigh-ins. The only thing there is she's definitely not the most, I don't know her personally, but you never know what somebody's confidence is like, and she doesn't outwardly look like the most confident person in some of those walkouts. I wouldn't say it's a paycheck fight, though, Quincy Brown. I just don't think so. Now, I have different views from this fight to the next fight because, again, Hannah Cyphers on a 3-fight losing streak, and I'm not going to pick her here. I'm going to go with Martin. Now, in the next one, Pollyanna Viana is also on a losing streak, but I have her to win. Matt also has her to win. Now, if you go all the way back and watch our prediction video for this fight that came out early on in the spring, I believe I took Viana and Matt took Emily Whitmire. So it's one of those ones where Matt switched over to Viana. Now, Emily Whitmire has given a good account of herself fight over fight. I know the record's incredibly salty when you're 4-3, but she's fought really good competition in her last fight. Again, common opponent between the two of them is Amanda Hebos. And, you look at it, Pollyanna Viana knocked Hebos out. Hebos was able to get the win over Whitmire. So, Matt hitting us up again with the super chat, the $5.99. Nope, I'm a Mick. But y'all Allens are good to me. Well, I appreciate it. Again, I see Alex Gagnon saying that Viana can hit the chin. Whitmire just grapples. She is strong, though. Yeah, but Pollyanna Viana is very good at jiu-jitsu. Now, NCloud saying don't bet on this fight. I wouldn't necessarily bet on the last fight, the Martin Cyphers fight. I actually put a little bit in on Viana in this one. I like the upside. Again, you're on a tidy little losing streak, if you can call it a tidy losing streak. The fight against Hebos, we talked about it. There's it doesn't matter in this one, the fact that Viana beat her so soundly. But I've got Hebos here. Tristan Showerhouse saying, do you think Viana's a lock? No, not at all. And Joe Dog saying that the Pollyanna Hebos fight, Hebos slipped and got knocked out. Yeah, exactly. It doesn't mean anything. It's just the fact that they're going to play on that. They're probably going to talk about it in the broadcast, the fact that Whitmire lost, but Viana got the knockout. It's a talking point for sure. And yeah, Hebos would beat Viana in a rematch for sure. Hooked on Kicks hanging out. Appreciate you. But yeah, on this one, like I said, I've got Viana over on Tapology now. Out of 2,472 votes, they're dead even at 50% each. 47% of Viana voters are going with her to win by decision. 44% saying she's going to win by submission, and the slim margin saying she could win by knockout for Whitmire. They're saying that she's most likely going to win by decision if she is to get a win. But again, yeah, I this one and your opener, the Mallory Martin fight and the Hannah Cyphers fight, not going to touch that one whatsoever. I'm taking Martin there. I see a lot of people taking Martin. If we go over to the excuse me, the Instagram votes, the Fight Night Picks Instagram votes, so make sure you check it out again at Fight Night Picks. Excuse me. 44 voters going with Martin to 28 going with Cyphers. If we look at Viana and Emily Whitmire, it's one of those things where they're really close. 41 voters going with Viana, and you've got you've got 38 going with Emily Whitmire. So a little bit interesting there. Richard V saying Tapology is the worst predictor of fight outcomes. It is for sure, but it's a good talking point for us, especially early on, because you get an idea of where the odds are and where the fan voting is. So I like it that way, just to see who's going with what. And if we have a really big disparity between odds makers and fan voting, it's just it's a good talking point. It's a good thing that we like to try to end our videos with, excuse me, but not something that we put too much stock into. So again, in the first fight, went with Cyphers. In the second one, going with Viana. Then we move up to our next fight of the night, where Sean Brady, to this point, a really big favorite. Again, a lot of people kind of talk about the fact that if Christian Aguilera is going to win, I was kind of surprised that he looked like such a bigger fighter at the face-offs. Usman is hanging out. Yes, sir. What's good, Craig? What's good with you? Richard Castro saying Sherdog's better than Tapology. Sherdog's not better than Tapology. I mean, what are you doing? Excuse me, I got something in my throat. What are you doing over on Sherdog that's better than Tapology? What's better there? Because typically they show less fights on there, and yeah, it's not as good. It's definitely not as good. They don't update as much. They don't put as much emphasis on regional MMA. They don't do as good of a job, I find, as Tapology does. So for me, when I'm doing some of the research, it's Tapology. We'll look at Sherdog. We'll look at UFC stats. We'll look at MMA Form Guide, and we look at Fight Matrix as well. I really like Fight Matrix in there. So it's just all that added info that you get. So we look at this fight. I see a lot of people over there. Christina Aguilera, she fights. Yeah, boy. The beast, Christian Aguilera. I mean, he's a really good fighter, really good hands, really good forward motion. So I can say those really good things about him. If you look at Sean Brady, again, training for this fight with Eddie Alvarez as main sparring partner, I think that's a great thing to do. Again, a guy at 55 that can definitely kind of help out a guy like Sean Brady at 70, getting ready for a fight like this. I see It Could Happen 21 saying I watched a lot of footage on both these guys, and Aguilera looks more active and has more knockout power. But with that, he'll make more mistakes, I guess. And we've seen it in some of his other fights. And we've seen it. I mean, Christian Aguilera has taken on some really tough challenges. Sean Brady, what I like, and Cloud kind of pointing it out there, the fact that his grappling's on point, his striking's quite crisp. If Sean Brady doesn't get backed up too much by Aguilera, he should be able to get a win quite easily. So, yeah, I'm going to stick with the pick of Sean Brady there. Kevin Lapointe saying it's going to be a dirty fight. I agree. This should be a really good one. Again, you're talking about great underdogs on this card. I mean, geez, we've got the first fight. You've got somebody that's almost a 3-1 favorite of Martin. Emily Whitmire, slight favorite, I guess, under the 200 range. In this one, Sean Brady is an average on best fight odds of -444. And then in the next fight, Caceres is more than a 2-1 favorite. So there's a lot of disparity in the odds in a lot of these fights. There's a decent spread, and there's always a good chance in MMA and in most sports as well. You're going to have probably 60% of the favorites win, 40% of the underdogs hit, roughly, or thereabouts. So there's a really good opportunity to pick some nice underdogs on this one. So But if I look at this one, again, I think you're going to have the favorite in Sean Brady getting the win. I know a lot of people, they can get pretty hard on us. Oh, you guys always pick the favorites or you pick the big favorites. But you can build a narrative and a story around it. And if you can see them winning, then so be it. Now, Artem the GOAT is saying, who's your lock? Mine's Mallory Martin. That's one where I wouldn't have a lock. I like Martin in that one. But Cyphers definitely has an opportunity there, for sure. No, please saying don't sleep on Brady. I don't think gamblers are, that's for sure, because again, he's such a big favorite. Elder saying Brady by unanimous decision. If we go over onto the Instagrams and look at the votes, you got a large majority. You get 74% going with Sean Brady, 26% going with Aguilera at Fight Night Picks over on the Twitters. Looking at this next fight, again, so we got excited for Alex Caceres. He's supposed to be taking on Giga Chikadze. And with full disclosure, Matt and I both picked Giga Chikadze to beat Alex Caceres. Now, in this fight, you have Austin Springer. He came in on short notice. Somebody in the comments section said that they had a buddy who saw him at the airport, and Springer said he was going to take Caceres down and submit him. There's pretty good odds on Springer to get the win by submission. I think it's more than a 5-1 odds on that one. And you look at the fight, and this is where MMA math and all that stuff, you can throw it out the door. Springer beat Chikadze by submission. Alex Caceres is going to fight Chikadze, and we pick Chikadze to beat Caceres. Does that mean that we pick Springer to beat Caceres? No, not at all. I don't see it happening whatsoever. Austin Springer, the only thing here, and I didn't get a chance to put the asterisks on there, is the fact that at weigh-in day, Springer came in at 151. It's just the way that it goes. So you've got Springer who comes in on extremely short notice, came in overweight. You've got Alex Caceres at 16-12. Now, I'm looking at NCloud saying 16-12 record, WTF. All right, that's fair. Now let's go through these fights. And I know Matt and I talked, quite a bit about Alex Caceres, but you look at the losses. Chrome Gracie in 2019. Chrome Gracie had a competitive fight against Cub Swanson. Say what you will. His striking isn't the best in the world, but you know exactly what his jiu-jitsu's like. Gracie gets the win there. Guang Wong, that's not a good one for Caceres whatsoever, but Wong at the time, 19-1-1. Jason Knight, Yair Rodriguez, we're talking good fighters. He's got a win over Sergio Pettis where my verteball just dropped. Apologize for the noise there. He's fought good competition, and he's been in the UFC since 2010. So Alex Caceres with the staying power here. You know exactly what you're going to get out of him. Really dynamic striking. Really accurate striking, good defense and offense. We mentioned that as well. He's in the top 10 of the all-time featherweight ranks on UFC stats, according to those metrics. But his takedown defense isn't that great. It's 59% if I'm not mistaken. So it's tough because, again, Springer, you look at the fight against Chikadze, you look at the fact that he can take the fight to the mat. Maybe there's a chance that he gets the win, but I like Caceres here. And it's one of those ones where if I look over at the odds, Caceres is an average of a -206 according to Best Fight Odds. I'm going to stick with him. And King Soul says he beat Ben Askren's son. He did beat Ben Askren's son. And he's looked really good in his last two fights, Caceres has. The fight against Steven Peterson, it's almost tough to have a good fight against Steven Peterson. He's really scrappy. Caceres looked great in that one, and he looked really good against Chase Hooper in his last fight. So take that for what it's worth. I just don't see it here for Springer. If you want to come back and come after me if Springer wins, you go for it. You're a real trooper. But I certainly see this one for Caceres. It's one of the more confident picks on the card. Now, your next fight, we took the underdog in Zach Cummings at the start of the week. I see a lot of people picking Alessio Di Chirico, or Di Chirico, apologies. I can see that. I'm looking over on the Fight Night Picks Instagrams. And you've got 42 votes for Cummings, whereas you have 39 for Di Chirico. A lot of people are incredibly high on Di Chirico. So it's interesting there, the way that kind of the public's been going. And it's interesting as well if you look over at the odds on this one, because Zach Cummings, the underdog, as I had mentioned, he's a +108 at this point. He opened up as a -140 favorite. So a lot of money's been coming on Di Chirico in terms of the gambler's perspective. I kind of lost my train of thought right there, but it's a tough one. Di Chirico, you look at it, he had a good opportunity in his last fight against a really tough out in, as we always like to say, in the Floyd Mayweather camp against Mahmoud Muradov. He lost one to Kevin Holland, where again, Kevin Holland, was he hurt? Did he hurt his shoulder? He was kind of playing around. Lost that one. His last win is against Julian Marquez over 2 years ago by split decision. He beat Oluwale Bambose. I mean, it happened, and now we're 2.5, almost 3 years ago. And I see where Thomas Howard is saying Cummings looked awful at the weigh-ins. I hear you, but to me, Zach Cummings, he's one of those fighters, and we talked about this last week, and it didn't play out just like that. And listen, the two fighters that I took and I went with hard last week, I went with Matt Semmelsberger at 2-1 odds when we made the video, and I also went with Mike Rodriguez, and those two worked out really, really well for me. And then we talked about Carlton Minus, who was going to fight Semmelsberger, and we said, listen, if you watch Carlton Minus fights, he's a really, really tough guy to try and have a good fight against. He's a grinder. He's a really frustrating fighter. He fights with a frustrating style. Well, so does Zach Cummings, because he can be a kind of boring fighter. He can be the type of guy that gets in there and he wants to grind on you. He wants to get it in the clinch. He wants to get it onto the ground. And then he'll go for like a front headlock or a front choke. And I see where Kevin's saying he looked at a shape. I see a lot of people saying that, Zach Cummings, no dice. Well, hey, the beard's on point now. It's a little bit longer. Glory Fitness and MMA. If you didn't hear about them on Dana White's Contender Series last week, let me tell you something. Holy smokes. They've got a lot of fighters that are starting to pop up in the ranks. Zach Cummings, one of those main guys there with the James Krauses and so on and so forth. But yeah, I'm sticking with the pick of Zach Cummings. I think he's going to make it a frustrating fight. Alessio Di Chirico, again, if I look over at his record, the 12-4, if we really try and break it down and focus on it a little bit more, I mean, this is a guy that definitely does have power. He's got good stand-up abilities. 5 of his wins by knockout, 4 of them by submission, 3 of them by decision. I see Kyle OM saying I like Di Chirico a lot in this one. I see Frankie56 saying both these guys are boring. Hopefully you're not talking about Matt and I. But yeah, I hear it for sure. Damon Blackburn saying I like Di Chirico. And Frankie saying stay away from this one. And then you've got some people going absolutely insane about the gambling aspect of things. So, looking into our next fight, we got Impa Kasanganay taking on a good fighter, Maki Pitolo, who we've seen recently get finished by Darren Stewart. So it's tough from that regard. Again, I've seen a lot of people come out and get excited about Maki Pitolo in this one. And I get it. I'm looking over at the picks over on the Instagrams, and there's 45 picks for Pitolo. You got 37 for Impa Kasanganay. Matt and I both went with Kasanganay for the simple reason that, I mean, this is a guy that can make it frustrating. He's got the wrestling. He's got the grappling. He trains at a really good gym in Gym O to prepare for a fight like this with the John Salters, with the Joe Seleckis, and so on and so forth. We've seen a lot more fighters competing out of that gym. And we saw Impa Kasanganay have a decent fight against Sugarfoot Adams in his last one in Contender Series about 2 weeks ago. I wouldn't say it was the best fight ever. He did have a 10-8 near the end. But overall, again, I think Impa Kasanganay, if he can make this fight boring, if he can pressure, and if he can stay on his bike the whole fight, he should be able to get the win against Maki Pitolo, because I can see Pitolo coming in here. He's got something to prove, and it's one of those ones where I don't know if it'll work well. I mean, it's not like Impa Kasanganay is going to come in there and a Pitolo overshoots for like an overhand. You have Kasanganay checking him with the hook. It very well could happen like that. It should be a really good fight. I see no place saying if Pitolo stays at striking, he will win. Frankie saying Pitolo has great value. And Cloud saying Pitolo lost to Callum Potter. Potter is the worst fighter in the UFC. I don't know about that. And again, I mean, he's won since then. So what would be the thing that you'd say back to that? Because I mean, he retired Charles Bird and finished him just back in June. So it's been a weird ride for Maki Pitolo so far in the UFC. And if you look over at the odds on this one, again, I mean, Kasanganay, he opened as minus 115, currently sitting at a minus 140. At one point, he was trending around a minus 160. Some people saying there's no way that Pitolo could knock out Kasanganay. That's it. I mean, if I see this one going the distance, I see Kasanganay winning. And I like the odds on that one, too. I'm pretty sure I threw that one down on my own card with Kasanganay for the win by decision. So it should be a really good fight. The next one, because again, this card's insane. And it sucks that we don't have that great fight Magomed, Ankalaev, and oh boy, Yeon Cutelaba. Had to think about that one. And I see it over here. Bailey Wright saying, wait, is the Yeon Cutelaba rematch canceled? I'm seeing some COVID rumors. They're not rumors. I mean, the UFC was the first one that put this one out there. So it's kind of interesting that way. But if we look at this fight, you've got Ricardo Lamas taking on Bill Algeo. And it's a great fight because Ricardo Lamas was originally scheduled to be taking on Ryan Hall. And I was looking forward to that one. Without a doubt, that would have been a great fight. It would have been fireworks because we've seen a lot of improvements from Ryan Hall on the feet. Or are they improvements because he's just that good standing? And you know how good his jiu-jitsu is as well. Now, Ricardo Lamas, yeah, maybe he's a little long in the tooth, but his losses are to great fighters. His last loss was to Calvin Kattar. There's no shame in that one. You've seen what Kattar can do. Right now, he's a contender in the featherweight division. Now, Ricardo Lamas, great hands, coming out of a good gym in MMA Masters where we've seen him before. You saw Danny Garcia picking up a win there a few weeks ago. We know Colby Covington now at that gym as well. And he's going to be taking on Bill Algeo. Yikes. I mean, Bill Algeo coming in on short notice. You look at the record, 13-4. I see a lot of people saying that Algeo is a good underdog. I'm looking at the record. The Brendan Loughnane fight. Now, Matt touched on this one quite a bit. Bill Algeo looked good, and he gave a good account of himself in that Loughnane fight. Now, everybody wanted to see Loughnane getting a UFC contract. I see a lot of people out there in the comments. It's really getting crazy. And I see FM saying, spit it, Craig. I don't see Algeo beating Lamas. I don't see Algeo beating Lamas either. I mean, listen, Bill Algeo's fought some good names so far. He's fought Tim Dooling an insane amount of times, twice. He's got a loss to Shane Burgos, Jared Gordon, and Brendan Loughnane, UFC caliber guys. But I just don't see it in this one. I mean, if you look over at the picks over on Tapology, just to get an idea, out of 2,505 votes, 86% going with Ricardo Lamas. If you look over at the odds, Lamas is an average of a minus 283 favorite over on Best Fight Odds. If you look over on Fight Night Picks, now I got to bring it back, 70 votes to 14 for Lamas over Algeo. And for all the reasons that I stated in the original prediction video, I'm going to stick with Ricardo Lamas. This is one of the ones, this is one of the more confident picks on the card. I would never say a lock, but I do like Ricardo Lamas in this one for sure. FM saying Lamas has a great chin. Is that a joke? Algeo looking much bigger. And Cloud, that's a really good point. But the other thing is, listen, Ricardo Lamas has fought bigger guys, taller guys in the past. I mean, we kind of went over it there. But if you look at his last five, Jason Knight, long, lanky guy. Josh Emmett, shorter, stockier guy. Mirsad Bektik, long, lanky. Darren Elkins, probably about the same size. And Calvin Kattar, long, lanky as well. He's been at the top of the division for the longest time. And it's a really exciting fight. I'm really looking forward to this one. It's such a good card. But this is one of the fights that I'm looking forward to most. Now, we move into a fight where I've been going back and forth on this one all week. I really want to pick Yeon Kim. It's tough, though. It really is. I mean, Yeon Kim, we talked about it in the original video. The weird thing is, UFC media, I saw it on Fightbook, I'm not naming names, MMA Fighting, everybody said Yeon Kim's a purple belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Somebody came in and said, hey, I've trained with Yeon Kim. She's a brown belt in Jiu-Jitsu. So I went over to her Instagrams, and there she is, brown belt in Jiu-Jitsu. So it's kind of crazy how stuff like that happens. And I see Fight League Atlantic hanging out from good old Nova Scotia, Canada. Make sure you check out Kat's podcast. Man, guy is getting busy. And I see there's a grappling tournament coming up, so some crazy stuff there. But yeah, really, really looking forward to this fight here between Alexa Grasso and Yeon Kim. Now, again, Matt and I both picked Alexa Grasso to win the fight originally. But like I said, a lot of me wants to take Yeon Kim, and there's a lot of reasons to get excited about it. I see Cloud saying Alexa Grasso is Paige Van Zandt 2.0. I don't think so, but again, the odds here are way too far apart. Grasso open is minus 250, currently sitting at a minus 285. If you look opposite of her, Kim open plus 210, now she's at a plus 230. I like that. I like those odds. I mean, the trouble is, and I see a lot of people over in the comments saying that Yeon Kim, look at that reach. Look at that reach advantage. She has 6 inches of reach on Grasso. But the trouble is, she stands with her hands back and she pushes forward, but she keeps her hands really far back. Now, I see it right there. Martial arts fan. Kim has the reach advantage. She doesn't use it. She never uses it at all. And I'm not joking. Go back and watch a bunch of Yeon Kim fights like I did, driving myself absolutely insane. The Yeon Kim, when she fought Nadia Kassem in her last fight, I get it. It was down under. You had a lot of support, a lot of supporters for her opponent. There was a lot of push on her opponent. She came in there and she looked good. Yeon Kim really did. But that's the trouble. I mean, how good is Nadia in this division? I don't think that her future ceiling is nearly as high as Alexa Grasso. And I see Fight League Atlantic saying Grasso is a beast. I got her by KO. Pancho Villa, I don't know who you're saying that hits pretty hard for the division. And Dumb Brick saying, look at that reach inflation and lies by the UFC. Well, first of all, I put this one together. But again, I don't have a tape measure for Yeon Kim's reach. So I go off of what I can see everywhere. But again, yeah, she doesn't have the greatest of reach. The other thing, and I see it over there too, UFC betting experience saying Yeon Kim missed weight in her last 2 fights. So good to see that she weighed in right on the nose 126 for this one. So did Grasso. But Usman Switch saying Kasem stinks. I mean, yeah, Yeon Kim went in there, executed a great game plan, and looked really good. But yeah, I've got somebody who everybody seems to be talking about, Alexa Grasso. I'm not going to change my pick there. She's looked really good, and even in the tough fights, like Carla Esparza. What's Carla Esparza going to do to you? She's going to give you a whole lot of different looks. And Alexa Grasso, like we've seen, she's too slow for Grasso. Grasso has great hand speed. She has great pressure. She had a really, really good opportunity at strawweight, but she fought really good competition. So now she has an even better chance in a weaker division of women's flyweight to get a win here and really propel herself into the category of a contender. Honestly, she does, because if you look at it, I mean, you've had Cynthia Calvillo coming in, getting a win over Ai. You've got all these different fighters. I mean, Jennifer Maia consistently winning, moving her way all the way up there. It should be a great fight, but yeah, I'm sticking with the pick of Alexa Grasso in this one. It's one that I've gone back and forth with in my mind because I can see Yeon Kim winning. Again, she's so credentialed in so many different disciplines, but it's almost like what we saw last week. I mean, listen, a lot of people were tough on us. Amanda Lemos and Mizuki Inoue. Mizuki Inoue, so good at karate. Her grappling's quite good. We saw her busy off her back in that fight, but she wasn't able to bring everything together. And for Yeon Kim, I just haven't seen everything come together and mesh so well where she's been able to propel herself up that division. Now you have Grasso moving up. Better's really giving her the shine, and I think she's going to get the win here. So we look at our co-main event of the evening. Appreciate everybody for joining us. I want to thank you again. I'm going to flip back over to that Grasso-Kim fight just to give you the picks over on Instagram. 55 votes for Grasso, 27 for Yeon Kim. So then we look again at our co-main event of the evening. Now, the picks over on... Now I got to bring everything back in focus. There we go. The picks over on Instagram for Neil Magny, 52, for Robbie Lawler, 37. It should be a great fight. It really should. I mean, Robbie Lawler, your former champ, kind of crazy to think. He's ranked 13th in the UFC's welterweight division. His last win was a decision win back in July of 2017 over Cowboy Cerrone. I mean, he's lost 3 in a row. He lost the title to Woodley before he beat Cerrone. And in the losses, I mean, I get it. He was hurt against Dos Anjos. He didn't look good. Again, I mean, the Ben Askren fight's kind of tough. And then against Colby Covington, it was really rough. I definitely see Neil Magny getting the win here. I see N-Cloud. N-Cloud, you're having a day, kid. Have a day. You're doing it today. Only way to beat Magny is leg kicks. Lawler doesn't kick. And it's pretty tough to see Robbie Lawler just pull an absolute 180 and go in there throwing a lot of kicks. And if he does, how's his head movement going to be? Now, he's such a proven vet that it should be quite good. And one DMO saying, I heard Robbie gets $300K a fight now. Well, I mean, he's a former champ, and he's not a face of the franchise at this point, but he's definitely a legend. He's definitely a Hall of Famer. So that for sure. The other thing, Richard Castro saying, I don't know, man, something tells me Magny's reach advantage and height will make Robbie struggle. It was a tough one in his fight against Anthony Rocco Martin in the smaller cage, so keep that one in your back pocket. But again, sticking with Neil Magny here, Galici Private Business saying Magny will lose by knockout. I don't know about that. I think, again, we haven't seen Lawler win in impressive fashion in the longest time. We're talking years, not months. I don't see it for Robbie Lawler here. It should be a good fight. I'm really looking forward to it. Win or lose, either guy, it's an exciting one. It's a possible fight of the night. I really wish that we get Caceres and Chikadze. That would have been my fight of the night pick. But yeah, sticking with Neil Magny in this one. I see a lot of people going with Robbie Lawler. Now we get into our main event, and this has been a real point of contention. If you look at it numerically, for Anthony Smith, it's a tough hill to climb. Now, people are asking, well, why is Anthony Smith such an underdog? And why aren't people going with Anthony Smith to win? Over on the Fight Night Picks Instagram, at Fight Night Picks, 52 votes for Rakic to 39. Let me check. Yeah, 39 for Anthony Smith. It's a tough fight for Anthony Smith. It really is. You saw what he looked like in his last fight. And if I see one more friggin' comment talk about Anthony Smith not knocking out that intruder, stop it. I mean, that has no bearing on a fight. And that's the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life. That's not a talking point. You're not cool for bringing that up. It has no bearing in a fight. Now, it is disappointing that happened to him. And then after that, he had a really bad performance against Glover Teixeira. But Glover Teixeira is a hell of a fighter, so you can't take anything away from Teixeira. But yeah, Smith didn't look good in that one. And if you look at his fight that he had against Gustafsson, he got the finish, and he looked good, but he didn't win every round. I mean, yeah, he got the win by finishing the fourth. But if you look at, I think it was the second and third round, Gustafsson definitely won that one. And then in the first round, probably went to Smith, going back and watching it. So it's tough. I mean, Smith, he's one of those guys that he can take some rounds off. He can kind of play a bit of that game and turn it up and go back. And Artem the GOAT, you got to stop asking me what fight of the night, performance of the night are. I'll get to that when I'm done. But for Anthony Smith, again, it's a tough hill to climb against Aleksandar Rakic, where you know how good his takedown defense in the UFC is at 88%. He's been taken down twice, and they were both in his first fight against Francimar Barros, and he looked good in that fight. And fight over fight, he's improved quite well. You don't always see the exact same thing out of Rakic. Fight over fight, you see a nice low kick. You see him keeping his lead hand nice up high where he kind of covers. He does a lot better job of doing that than our old pal Luke Rockhold that's looking to come back and make a comeback. But yeah, it's a tough fight. I mean, we've picked Rakic for a bevy of reasons. We went quite in depth on this fight. And Anthony Smith, great grappler. If you look at his metrics on UFC stats, and those matter, especially for a guy who's had this many fights in the UFC. They play into it. It's a lot of fun because they're split between middleweight and light heavyweight. They're split between Anthony Smith, who was just a so-so middleweight, and in his last fight got knocked out by Thiago Santos, make that rematch if he wins. But again, hey, it's tough. I mean, his takedown abilities, he sets them up with his striking. Smith throws great elbows when he's in the clinch. He's good. He's good when he's got his back up to the cage, but he's also not very good, and he can take a lot of shots. It's just you don't see a lot of guys putting Smith out in that position. I see one DMO saying I'd favor Smith 5 rounds, but not 3. Apologies. I like that one. Yeah, I've got Rakic in this one. I see a lot of people going with Rakic. The implied probability for Rakic to win we're over 75% there. It's a safe pick to go with Rakic. Could I see Smith going in and getting a win? Yeah. But look at the wins and the come up. Let's go through those 3 fights and spend some time on them. He beats Rashad Evans. Evans was over the hill. He beat Shogun. Look at who Shogun's fought since and tell me that those guys are the cream of the crop. I mean, Lil Nog is not cream of the crop, especially at the age that he's at. But that's a talk for another day. But again, it's one of those ones where, where I'm sticking with Rakic. I'm looking over in the comments. There's a lot of people going through it. So let's get into those comments really quickly. So JR MMA saying Rakic by decision at around 250 is my play for this card. You've got Omar K. He couldn't beat Uzdemir if he fails tonight. This is it. That's the other thing. Rakic put on a good account of himself in that Oezdemir fight, and a lot of people picked Rakic to get the win there. So it's tough to put too much stock into that one. But again, you fight a good fighter like that. You know how good Oezdemir can be. He's challenged for a title. He's been fighting contenders, win or lose. So Oezdemir is a pretty good litmus test. He fought well. Now if Rakic beats Smith, does he get the fight against the winner of Blachowicz and Reyes? Or does he fight one of those guys, kind of in that range? And there aren't a lot of guys that are in that range. So do you see Rakic fighting Prohaksha? They've trained before. Do you see Rakic fighting Santos? Those are pretty much the two options that I see for him. And I see no police saying Yuri would smash them both. I think he probably would. But yeah, it should be a lot of fun. Again, going with the technique of Rakic, going with those nice leg kicks, I think he's really going to pressure, and you're going to see a win for Rakic. So now we whip back through. We're going to go through the entire card once more, just to give you an idea of where we were if you missed it. First fight of the night. You've got Martin and Cyphers. I like Cyphers because the odds, again, they're tough. I mean, Mallory Martin's such a favorite in this one, and there's been so much money that's came on Mallory Martin. But when Matt and I talked about this before Martin went way up as far as she did, we gave Cyphers the benefit of the doubt and said that there's definitely a chance that she can win. I see Dan MMA Picks has thrown it up there a couple times saying, check this out, Hannah Cyphers has 70% takedown defense, keeps it on the feet, she wins. But look at the people that she's fought. Look at the Hannah Cyphers fights. I'll give you that. And please stop commenting so many times about it. You're great, and I appreciate you. But if we look at it in the UFC, so she loses to Macy Barber. She beats Pollyanna Viana. She beats Jody Escobar. Loses to Hill. Loses to Dern. Loses to Agapova. Well, she's lost by finish, and she's only gone to, she's only gone twice to the third round in those fights. So it's an interesting one. Glitchy private business saying I just bet €1,000 on Cyphers. That's not a good pick. I mean, again, I'm giving Cyphers a chance. I'm going with Martin here. I don't like the line. I wouldn't touch this one with a 10-foot pole because, again, lines like this are crazy and there's no sense. So I'm going to go with Martin in this one. The next one, Pollyanna Viana, Emily Whitmire. Again, very close. Whitmire the favorite. Sticking with the pick of Pollyanna Viana. One of the least confident ones out there because Viana's striking is definitely not all that great. And I see Brock Line saying Agapova just made a fool of herself. Listen, I mean, again, I said Matt used the word lock in the night with Agapova, but again, kudos to Shayna Dobson for getting the win there. And again, I see Glitchy saying conclusion. Cyphers is unpredictable. If she is favorite, don't touch her. If she's an underdog, bet it. Yeah, I don't know there. And Tristan making a good point, saying no value on Martin. Exactly. There's not a lot of value. And a lot of these fights, especially women's strawweight, it's really tough unless we're talking in the top 5. So sticking with Viana in this one, I think she's going to be able to get the win. But again, wouldn't be overly surprised on Emily Whitmire. You look at the next fight, Sean Brady. This is another one, and I've seen a lot of people up there saying that, I'm kind of surprised that Sean Brady's such a big favorite. I am as well. Christian Aguilera looked amazing in his last fight against Anthony Ivy, but just where does Anthony Ivy compare with a guy like Sean Brady? Because we know that Sean Brady, undefeated as an amateur, undefeated as a pro, he's looked really good. He's looked good in his UFC fights. People said, Court McGee, that fight, he didn't look all that great. I thought he looked pretty good. In his last fight, he looked good as well. He's got the takedown abilities. He can sling it on the feet. Christian Aguilera, definitely the harder hitter of the two. And again, this is one of those ones that I wouldn't touch. I'll stick with Sean Brady, but I wouldn't touch this fight because it's just silly the way that the odds are set up. It's one that I wouldn't go with. Caceres Springer, I still like Caceres in this one. It's a disappointment we didn't get Chikadze. This is one that I threw into a parlay with Caceres, sitting around close to a 2-1 favorite. I think there's still some value there. Again, people are going to laugh about his record at 16-12. They're going to come back and say, oh, well, if Austin Springer wins, here's the scoop. The guy came in overweight, came in on short notice. If he can close the gap and take Caceres down, you know that Caceres' takedown defense is subpar. So if he can get on top and stay on top, he should be able to do it. But you saw what happened against Chikadze. In the first round, Chikadze went for what? Armbar, omoplata. He didn't get it, but he just kept going for different things like that. I see Alan Clark saying Christian trains with a local guy I trained with back in the day, or Springer. But yeah, I think Caceres is going to be able to get it done. He was training for a totally different style of fighter, though, which kind of brings up the red flags because he was getting ready for such an accomplished kickboxer in Chikadze, and Austin Springer gives a much different look. I see Worth it saying, are you underestimating Austin? He did beat Caceres, who you like so much. Who am I underestimating? The fight didn't happen. He beat Chikadze. Yeah, again, Worth it. That doesn't matter in this fight because, listen, we had Chikadze to beat Caceres. He was losing that fight until the very end. I mean, Chikadze arguably won the first round. He definitely won the second round. And in the third round, Springer got on top of him, and Chikadze showed that, yeah, I'm not a grappler at all, made all the wrong moves, and got into a rear naked choke. So again, I'm not taking too much away from Springer, but didn't get a contract there. Took about a year off, fought on the regional scene, and then had a win over a run-of-the-mill regional guy. So it's tough to kind of tell. I still think, again, there's some value there with those 2-1 odds. So I'm going to stick with Caceres. Then we get into Chirico taking on Zach Cummings. I see a lot of people going with Chirico to get the win here. A lot of the money's come in on Chirico. He's one of the biggest movers in those respects at about a 35% clip according to Best Fight Odds. Sticking with Cummings. I like the underdog status here, and I think that he can definitely, if he makes the fight boring, if he closes the gap, if he grinds on Chirico, then he should be able to pick up the W. I just want to circle back again to Lorthos, the legend, saying Caceres has a lot to prove today, asking for better fights, so he better prove it. He's looked good in his last 2 fights. He really has. Martial arts fans saying I'm still taking him here. Money's coming in on Springer. Listen, Galici private business. Are you going to get me in on some of that Cyphers money? Because I don't think it's going to happen. But it should be a good fight. I see people now taking, Cummings to lose. Cummings in at plus 108. Just my 2 cents saying taking Chirico here. Good to see you. Just my 2 cents. You're always hitting up the comment section. That's pretty cool. Alan Clark. I mean, we were just talking about Austin Springer. Now you're saying Jerry Springer shape. And yeah, I like Cummings in this one. If he wears on Chirico and he's able to kind of expend that gas tank, we've seen that in question before, so I think he can get it done there. Then we look into Impa Kasanganay taking on Maki Pitolo. It's a great fight. Maki Pitolo can throw absolute coconut bombs, and we've seen that from him in the past. He put on a good performance against Charles Byrd, retired him from the UFC. Really appreciate Orlando hitting up the super chat. Holy crow. Thanks, bro. I appreciate all your work. You made me over $2,000 last event. Thought I'd share some with you. Well, I certainly appreciate that. That's insane. Yeah, man, thanks so much. That's crazy. Orlando, we appreciate you. And listen, one of those things that we're going to start doing, I'm going to say this because you did that and we've got a little bit of time left. The Fight Night Picks Prediction Trophy, I'm going to try and set something up because we have a website, fightnightpicks.net. Our plan is, and I'll let the cat out of the bag here, our plan is to do something similar to Tapology where you can make your picks there. And then at the end of the year, we're going to try and, throw a Fight Night Picks Prediction Trophy. I have 2 of them. I'm not going to get up and grab the other one, but there are 2 here. So I'd like to do something like that. And that's awesome. So really appreciate you, Orlando. I'm going to finish off. We'll go through my picks. Impa Kasanganay, this is a contentious one. I see people going either way. I think there's value in Kasanganay, especially to win by decision. We're in the plus at that point. And that's what I went with myself personally, me, myself, and I. So you can get upset at me if you want. But yeah, I like Kasanganay. He has a frustrating style. If he can pull back, in and back, like we've seen him do in a lot of his fights, and really do well with the distance. Again, Maki Pitolo, pressure fighter. He throws a lot of power. And Kasanganay can do a lot of good things, throws some nice leg kicks as well. I think Kasanganay here. Then we look at Lamas Algeo. I see this one for Lamas. I saw a lot of people hit us up with Algeo as we went through this, but I'm going to stick with Lamas. Then we get into Grasso, Yeon, Kim. Oh, it's tough. My heart says Kim. My mind says Grasso, so I'm going to go with my mind in this one and stick with Alexa Grasso. Then we move into a good fight with Robbie Lawler and Magny. A great co-main event. Robbie Lawler, your former champ, but he hasn't looked good in his last 3 fights. I know. In the Ben Askren fight, he looked good. He picked him up. He threw him. And really, did he lose? Probably not. He has an L on his record, but yeah, that bulldog choke by Ben Askren put him out. So he's coming into this fight against Neil Magny. There's so many fun things that Neil Magny can do in there, and he's really frustrating, but not in a way like Zach Cummings is frustrating, where he's like a wet blanket. We talk about a lot of fighters like that. We talked about Bilal Muhammad's the guy that we love to say, because he can get it going with the hands, but he's going to move in there, close the distance, kind of play up against the wall, take you down, rinse and repeat. Well, Neil Magny can be really frustrating because, again, Lawler, it's tough for him because you don't see too many kicks. Neil Magny, a skinnier guy, he's at risk to getting kicked quite a bit. I just don't see that happening here. So again, I've got Magny. I think the pressure, the striking, the accuracy for Magny, they are all good signs that he'll be able to get the win over Lawler. And for Lawler to get the win, I would expect him, like, he's probably going to need to get a finish. Don't see it there. CN saying, who's winning Rakic Smith? Well, let's get into it. Aleksandar Rakic. We already kind of talked about it, but Anthony Smith, he throws those weird shots when he moves in. He closes distance well. He puts guys up against the cage. He throws nice elbows. He throws good shots. Nice uppercut in there. He can be a really technical striker. He can brawl at times, and when he brawls, it's not good. He can look like he's really tired, but again, it just doesn't work. It's not a style that I see working well for him against Rakic. We know how good Rakic is takedown defenses. We know that he can be good over on his, we know that Rakic can be decent off his back, but the fact that he can pop right back up. CN, I really let you down here, maybe, unless you're going with somebody that's in the comments area, you're going against somebody. But yeah, I'm taking Rakic in this fight. It's a great card. There's a lot of disparity in the odds. Again, personally, I'm only making 2 or 3 picks on this. And I see Dan MMA picks is saying I'd stay away from betting on Rakic. You never know. Smith is so weird. He can show up world class or whatnot. CN's having a lot of fun with the live chat. I am too. That's the best part. And Luke is saying Lawler because the people he's been losing to are all good. And I still think Lawler is good enough to get the win. Does this fight go the distance? Well, I mean, again, it's only 3 rounds. Listen, both guys can certainly finish fights. The odds kind of show a trend towards Rakic winning by decision or Smith needing to finish. And again, the trouble for me is Smith doesn't look great during rounds 2 and 3. Then it's all Rakic. So for me, Smith's got to come out hot. He's got to come out like he did against Shogun and really put on something quick, because if not, then it's not going to be a Smith win. And I don't see that happening. So Naiji saying, can we quickly go over everyone you picked just before the vid ends, or those that you might have missed? Listen, I know you people watching at home. You go to the end, you see where I pop the picks up, and then you come back and you get mad at me in the chat and you don't listen to anything that Matt and I say. Like when Frank Yeager, we both picked Munoz, but we said explicitly in the video, if Edgar's going to win, he's going to grind out, he's going to stay on the outside, he's going to strike, and he's going to win by decision. It happened. We both picked Munoz. We thought he was going to finish him, and I thought Munoz won that fight 48-47, but that's for another day. But either way. So going with Martin, Viana, Brady, Caceres, Cummings, Kasanganay, Lamas, Grasso, Magny, and Smith. There's a lot of good underdogs on this card. I'm sure you're going to see people coming back at us in the comments. But yeah, it's a great card. It's a lot of fun. I really appreciate everybody for hitting us up in the chat. Appreciate everybody hitting up the super chat. Orlando with the 1999. That's definitely appreciated. Having a lot of fun. This is a great card, and hopefully we can have our picks out for next weekend's card. Oh man, there's so much MMA, so much going on. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. So we got 7 minutes before the card. Everybody sit tight, sit on the couch, grab a beverage, a water, an energy drink, whatever you cool cats drink, and get ready for this one. I'm just kidding, but it should be a great one. Hopefully everybody enjoys the fights. And thanks again for joining us with Fight Night Picks. As we always say, let's get into it.
It's time
For 15 minutes of non-stop MMA, tackling the biggest news in the sport. Head into the chat and let us know how you feel. Live from Fredericton,